victory and the agony of defeat.
Madison, great ball around the corner, Petticini, he beats them all! Junior Polar out wide, bumped away from Trindle, Sharks coming through, none of them can hold him!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to an instant reaction edition of the Tip Sheet podcast. As always, I'm your host, John, also known as 4020. Make sure I can get Craig into the picture here. Why is it not capturing you, mate? There we go. And joining me, as you can see, with my belated technical difficulties is my good mate Craig, also known as Sixties. And unfortunately, the Parramatta Eels have produced a real stinker. Some of their worst football in months, Craig, as they've gone down to the South Sydney Rabbitohs in round 24 by the tune of 20 points to 16. Really straying away from the things that have made them such a good team in the last 12 or so weeks. In a game where, feasibly, if they play remotely competently, based on what we've seen in the last 10 to 12 weeks, they win by 13 plus comfortably. South Sydney were spirited, but were not there to win the game, honestly. And the Eels just played some very, very ordinary football. I can see the commiserate, or the sort of same sort of energies in chat. This was a game that the Eels absolutely fumbled. But we will go into it in depth, of course, alongside 4 other games on a massive Saturday of action for the Parramatta Eels. There were wins in other grades, thankfully. The lower grades did very well this weekend. But big fella, I'll pass it over to you. What's your before we talk football, what's your first reaction coming out of a day like this?
Well, you know what? I think it's probably best to get our thank yous out of the way first, because I'm about to unload with some criticism here.
Oh yeah.
So thank you to our sponsors, star partners, Real Estate, Auburn, Narellan, and Parramatta, Greg and the team. I've exchanged a few messages with Greg just on full time. And also, of course, to Parramatta Leagues Club, the home of the Eels. It's always great to be there on match days and even on away games as well, because it is the home of the Eels. And we thank them for their continued support of the Cumberland Throw. John, I honestly think that was one of the more incompetent performances of the season from our Eels.
Yeah, it is. We played. Let's not bullshit around here. We played worse football in the first month. We played dreadful football. But knowing what this team has been capable of, knowing the players that we got back this week, and Isaiah Yongi alongside Mitchell Moses being that many games back into the season, you'd expect more from them. And unfortunately, I think you can look at a lot of the key players and have at least one moment in that game where you're going like, what are you doing?
Yeah. John, when I say it was one of maybe the most incompetent performance of the season, or one of the most, at the start of the season, we're a group of strangers. And it just wasn't happening for the team. But there's no excuses this time of the season. There's no excuses against the South team that's decimated by injury, and a South team that, apart from some inspirational moments from the fullback tonight and a couple of flashes from
Talis Duncan,
and Walker.
Cody Walker had a couple of decent touches, for sure.
Yeah. But apart from that, they were a team that was there to be beaten. They were a team that would have
we destroyed them in the midfield. Between the 20s for the majority of that game, we were almost breaking their line at will, but we just could not convert. And we had a text exchange where you're sort of talking about those deficiencies going to bite us on the backside. Sure enough. And then, he wasn't on his loan in this regard. There was some, like I said, bad moments from all our key players, but that moment where Isaiah Yongi just let that deflected kick sit on the turf and he took a very lackadaisical approach to the ball, that was the game. I mean, the Eels obviously got back.
That actually, John, that to me encapsulated the performance.
It really did. It was a perfect microcosm of what the Eels had produced across the prior 65 minutes or whatever it was of the game.
Yeah, it was a game where I felt that the team put in 80% effort instead of 100%. And as I said, that's where that moment sort of encapsulated it. And maybe it might be a bit generous to give that an 80%.
I think that is a little bit
very
generous.
moment.
Yeah.
Just,
Look,
you
there are
probably give
individuals
it
that had
about
good games. I mean,
20%.
I think the edge-back roles played pretty well. Jack Williams and Kelma Tuolangi both had some great moments. And I'm sure there's other players, if I go through the stats, I haven't actually looked at the individual stats here. I mean, Zach Lomax is down for 220 metres, and he definitely had some moments he'd like back, and including he was part of the issue early on where we gave away a lot of 20-metre restarts on plays that didn't need to be 20-metre restarts. I mean, Dylan hoofed it dead by a mile. Zach Lomax knocked it forwards 15 metres from a contested kick on the goal line. And I think Joe Ash was unlucky with one of his kicks he just got wrong on his range. But yeah.
John, I said 80% because, like, 80% is not a bad effort in terms of effort being put in. But what was missing was a lot of 1% moments. It was almost like there were times where they expected someone else to get the job done,
to be there and push up or make the play. Yeah,
like all those line breaks. Where's the support? Or for whatever reason they couldn't find the support. If it was there, it was a frustrating game to watch because you felt that the longer that it went, and the more that we were in a funk, that we weren't going to get out of it. And I guess, as such, it was a game that we deserved to lose. That's the only way I can describe it, because in terms of the season as a whole, it was probably close to the most disappointing result, if not the most disappointing result. Like, throw out the season opener and the loss to the Tigers early on in the year. I'm talking about where our expectations are now, and we expect that the team is going to compete hard against the top teams and get the job done against some of the bottom teams. And we didn't get the job done. We didn't get the job done against a South Sydney team that's missing a whole heap of their quality first-grade players.
There's no way to sugarcoat it in terms of what the opposition were fielding this week. Were they spirited and had good guts? Yeah, South's played tough football, but the Eels were a better team. Like, in terms of the football they've been playing, in terms of what we saw on the field, barring the actual conversion of opportunities into points. But, some weak defense. Look, did we cop some bad calls? Yeah, I'm sure there were some bad calls in there. And Kilmer getting pinged for an incorrect play of the ball, half a dozen sets after Jai Gray was missed for a bad play of the ball. And that following set, there were 3 incorrect play of the balls by South Sydney that weren't caught up yet. I mean, that's unfortunate. But yeah, this was on the Eels and no one else. And
I'm not even gonna touch.
Yeah, there is stuff if you go with a fine-tooth comb you can get upset about. South's Gateway won 6 again. It is part of the equation, but the reality is Parramatta played terribly today. And if you're going to look past that, then you're not going to get to the problem, aren't you? And the Eels, they just
70%, John, 70% completion rate.
But you can win with 70% completion rate. We've seen plenty of wins from not just Parramatta, who haven't had that many wins this year, but you see plenty of wins from teams of 70% completion rate. But they were so inefficient again when it came to converting those midfield opportunities into points. And this is what happened a couple of weeks ago. And
but John, it was about 50% in the second half. That's the trouble.
True.
And if you took it from about the 35th minute mark, that's probably where it all came, because the errors that Parramatta made in the first half were all in that last 5-10 minutes. And then you end up with those sort of the sort of stats that, like, how you get stats like, where is it? The error rate 17-7.
Yeah,
17-7. Like, that tells you why the team lost. And what I've been on about in the second half of this season is that I want the team to find some sort of middle ground where we know that they can challenge the opposition defence. But this again felt like one of those games where the errors were coming at the wrong time, or
I do want to
push passes.
This isn't so much against you, Craig. I do want to caution some circumspection here, guys. There is an emotional response in chat I'm seeing. We knew we beat Melbourne. You know, we came into this game 2 wins from 3 losses. We're not a bad team. We don't need wholesale changes. We played a shit game tonight, but you know, like I said, players like Isaiah Yongi learned a tough lesson. We saw a bad lapse between Dylan Walker and Mitchell Moses at one point as well before halftime. Like we don't need a massive overreaction to this one. The Eels played shit, and they're going to take some tough lessons from it. But we don't need to be stripping Junior out of the team and going out and signing a 5/8 purely because of tonight. Like maybe we do need a 5/8. That's still up in the air. But I don't think Josh Papali'i was the reason we lost tonight by any means.
No. Look, we'll be honest about Joe Ash. He's got a lot to learn about the number 6 craft.
Clearly, but you know, But by the same token, Mitchell Moses played a poor game tonight, and whenever Mitchell Moses plays a poor game, you know, we had Dylan Brown out there. That didn't help us. This is a guy that's getting paid $1.5 million nearly by Newcastle to be a half, and I know he's out in the centres, but when you have so many players off the mark and as a team having some macro issues, of course. Jim Duggan says 40 Souths were not bad tonight. They defended well. Yeah, Souths weren't bad, but we still had like 5 line breaks to 2 at halftime, whatever it was, or 6 line breaks to 2 or something like that. We were tearing them apart. Jack Williams was breaking the line at will. Kelma Tuolangi was knocking them around. We were pulling them apart, but we just couldn't convert. So, and as spirited Souths were, there is still I think plausibly with solid football played by Parramatta, a pretty comfortable 13+ victory to be had tonight. And Souths did play with spirit. I'm going to give them plenty of credit in that regard. They did not roll over, but we were our own worst enemies again. And it's if you go through this game with fine-tooth comb, there's going to be so many things you can be critical of. You know, Zach Lomax had some bad moments. Mitchell Moses had bad moments. Will Penasini played good for the most part, but then got stood up when Talis Duncan got forced into the centres. Will, for whatever reason, just struggled to make that adjustment. I don't know why. Addo Carr got beaten up by Munro. Dylan Brown. Dill wasn't that. Oh, no, he got beaten by Jai Gray in the first half. 1-on-1, pretty rough out wide. I thought Jermaine Hopgood was okay. Riley Smith got 52 minutes. I don't remember him playing 52 minutes, Craig. It felt less than that. But yeah. You know,
I think it's because it was that last 28 minutes that we played without him, and we saw some of those 1% moments that the Eels didn't win occur in that last 28 minutes. And you have to think to yourself, could Riley have been the difference?
Yeah, maybe. Mr. 1%.
Could he have
like
been there to tidy up some moments? Yeah. Would that moment with Yongi, like I wonder whether Riley would have been the one hearing back to dive on the ball.
Would Riley have been flying back to dive on the ball? Exactly. And again,
I mean, it's all conjecture.
But again, I'm seeing people complaining about the 5th tackle option kick to Zach Lomax. We're literally at a point in the season where we've got some of the biggest coaches in the game butting heads about how potent the kick to an attacking winger is. We should be kicking the Zach Lomax, but we're not getting it right.
No. Now, John, can I just read through something to you? We talked about the 17 errors. 1 to Joe Ash, 5 to Zach, 2 to Will, 1 to Dylan, 3 to Josh Addo Carr, 1 to Mitch Moses, and 2 to Isaiah Yongi.
I mean, it's all your core players, isn't it? Like, there's so many.
With 1 each to Dury and to Alungi, you saw where the errors were coming from. It's basically all the back line.
Yeah, exactly. It's your key playmakers in the back line.
It's the entire back line, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's where it's coming from. Only 2 errors made by the forwards. So you look at that and you go, we look to play an expansive game. With that comes the risk of errors. Tonight was a game where those errors happened, and they come with that expansive play. They come as that ball is shifted out wide. We made the errors out wide. It's as simple as that. It's what I was saying is that it playing the type of football that the Eels play comes at a risk. When you make that many errors,
it puts a stress on the team, absolutely. And I respect wanting to be adventurous and bold, but like you said, there are absolutely times where it's going to be a double-edged sword, and we definitely saw it. Look, we saw it tonight to an extent. I just feel like the energy levels are also pretty ordinary as well, which is never going to help when you sort of play. You said like 80% level, but I think that was being a bit generous.
Yeah. Look, I don't know how much we can break down of this, John, because I think everyone saw that it was a game where the Eels butchered. It seemed like opportunity after opportunity in the first half, and then in the second half, it was like, well, we completed at such a poor rate that we didn't get the same sort of opportunities that we did in the first half. The Rabbitohs went on a run of scoring 16-0 in that period after we jumped out to that 12-4 lead. We went from a 12-4 lead to being 20-12 down. That's the sort of run that the Rabbitohs went on. And it all came back to taking advantage of our errors. Look, there's something that I don't understand, John. Look, Lomax had a big game in terms of his effort. But let's go back to the try that the Rabbitohs scored just before halftime. Where on the last tackle, he shuts down a play right out wide on his wing and then almost goes to sleep on top of the player.
I'm going to be honest, I thought that was a rubbish six again, Craig. I thought that was
I
thought there was a run of six again.
Here comes a six again. I knew it was a six again coming. It was just too long.
I thought the next one after that was a fair six again. I thought that one was pretty rubbish. I thought that was in a run where Sutton was managing the game. But yeah, look, that's one we're going to have people fall on either side of the debate. And obviously, we got it wrong because that's where the whistle went. But I think that was part of the reason why Moses was a bit frustrated with Sutton at halftime, because there was a whole string of stuff. The South gave away 1-6 again the entire game, Craig. Like this is a weekly issue where teams become miraculously disciplined against Parramatta, and we've spoken about it in the past, and I don't want to get bogged down in it again. But South Sydney were not a 1-6 again conceding team tonight, yet they were. And yeah, that whole sequence, we gave away about 4-6 agains, and I think half of them were very contestable.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, look, I had thought the same as well, John, because when they were putting up the penalty count, I thought, well, you're not looking at the six again count at the moment because it's more than even out when you added the two together.
Yeah.
But that one, no, I thought that was easily avoidable, and it directly led, that extra possession directly led to that next try. They weren't going to score off that next play of the ball. The line was set. There wasn't a need to be as slow as he was. It just wasn't a good six again to give away. Don't give the referee a chance to make a rubbish call. That's how I see it. It was just, we were ready to go for the play of the ball. It just took too long, and that's just how strongly I felt on that one. I was really, really angered with him rather than Sutton when that happened. Now, as I said, don't get me wrong. There's the effort that Lomax put in was off the scale, but we spoke about last week that what we're getting from Zach at the moment is looking for those big moments. And as a result of that, you're seeing 5 errors. 5 errors tonight. And why? Because he's going in there and he's competing for big moments, but we're actually not getting anything out of it. It's a tough call. I mean, I guess this is why I'm not a first grade coach and Jason Riles is, because I didn't see one advantage that we got from those balls that Riles was competing for.
Riles? The coach was out there.
Oh, sorry.
Lomax, yeah. Look, there was one at the end of the game where we knocked it back and it was ruled to be a knock-on. That was probably the only one that was one that had a quote-unquote potential advantage.
Now, I want to clarify. I'm not saying you don't go for it. Like don't.
Well,
don't
like I said, we literally have Craig. We literally have Craig Bellamy, Ivan Cleary feuding about how broken the attacking kicker advantage is right now. And if we're not trying to take advantage of it ourselves, we'd be stupid. Now the question is,
exactly.
The question is Zach Lomax healthy enough to be that guy right now? And there's a very big question mark over his fitness because he's been doing an immense workload since State of Origin. If you look at his hands, if I don't bang my microphone, look at his hands; they're taped up to the gills. And I wouldn't be. I think he seeded that after he scored the try. He seeded the conversion to Mitchell Moses because he'd been gashed on the knee and had to take some painkillers and get the knee strapped up. So, yeah, he has been in the wars. He's not 100%. He gets run off the ball pretty much every other kick he's chasing through to no whistle. So, yeah, do we need to execute a little bit better? I don't know how you get the referees on side of that. That's a issue that we don't seem to be on top of. But, yeah, do we need to execute a bit better? Does Zach need to stop tipping the ball up and knocking it forwards? Yeah. Like, there are definitely different ways to approach it. But I can't have this, not argument with you, but in general, this discussion and then not look at what Melbourne are doing with Xavier Coates and then say, well, we'd be brain dead if we aren't trying to replicate that with Zach Lomax. It is literally a broken rule right now that you should be exploiting as much as you can. Yeah,
I guess what I'm trying to get at is, I think he's out of form in competing there.
Yeah, look, he is banged up.
It does come down, John. It does come down to what you're saying. Teams this year have got away with blue murder with running him off the ball, or getting blockers in his way. But what I'm seeing at the moment is almost negligible results going there. Now, whether we're just not quite landing the ball in the right spot, whether the timing of the run's not quite there, whether he's being run off the ball, whatever it is, I almost feel like it's too reliant on that, if anything. I guess that's what I'm getting towards. I think we're expending a lot of energy into a tactic that we haven't been able to execute near.
In previous weeks, I would have agreed. This was Zach's most effective game on the ground in months. He was breaking the line on kick returns and was knocking guys out of the way across multiple carries. And we just look at his stats. They've got him down for 2 line breaks. One was obviously the try, but one was off a kick return, 4 tackle breaks. Those 222 metres came from 23 runs and without the big padding of big line breaks, multiple big line breaks. So I think he was more productive this week than he has been in a long time. But again, going back to the kick, it's clearly not being executed effectively yet. Whether it's a Zach fitness thing, whether it's a opposition team tactical thing, or whatever the balance is there, the Eels do need to rethink this. And yeah, maybe Zach. I've been open to the idea of Zach getting a rest. He's clearly shouldered a ridiculous workload this year, and I don't think he's anywhere near 100% right now.
I just think, I don't know that it's that he necessarily needs a rest. I just think that because our tactics are so much going for that Lomax combination with the kick and the chase, that he's trying to bring off the big moments because opposition teams have found a way to circumvent the rules of blockers and I guess somehow protecting the catcher when they're playing us. And it's been so effective against us. Our return on that tactic has been negligible this year. And I just think, let's not throw him into that situation as much. Like, bring it back a bit. Maybe if it's only happening once or twice in a game, then, and we're throwing other shots at teams, maybe it would then be more effective when we do get it out there. I don't know. All I know is I think we're getting minimal return for that particular play. Has been since the time that Moses has come back into the team. We know what Zach is capable of, but I just think it just hasn't happened for us this year from that. And he's been providing for us. My God, anytime you've got a winger that's producing over 200 run meters and the amount of tackle bust that he is, you know that he's busting the gut for the team. But I just think that particular tactic is just not working for us this year. It's almost like, John, when we had the short dropout, we had the tallest man in rugby league in Sean Lane, and we couldn't get a ball back from a line dropout.
That was another big moment tonight as well, was Alex Johnston beating Zach Lomax on the short dropout.
Yeah.
Again, emblematic of the I suppose, psychological levels the team was playing at tonight. It's I mean, Jim's in chat saying he reckons that Zach's been off since Origin. I agree. I think that's when the workload got too much for him. And I think between the workload and I think he's playing through some injuries. And like you said, Craig, it might be. I think there's a fair case that mixed in with the injuries is a genuine bit of form slump. It sometimes it happens, and when you're trying to high point those balls, when you're feeling it, and I think Zach's feeling it right now. Look, a lot of emotion in chat. There's people saying that we're not a top 8 team next year and whatnot. There's still a lot of football to be played there, guys. We've been on a real good run of form for nearly 3 months now. And I know that I haven't got a ton of wins to back it, but in terms of being competitive with good rosters, we've been right there. I mean, again, Melbourne Storm week before last week, 16-10 loss. Like, that was a very good game. And as Jason Ryall said, we lost that game. The Storm didn't win it. So I don't look, I'm not going to try and underreact to a bad loss tonight, because tonight was a bad loss, but we shouldn't overreact by the same measure. This loss hasn't set us back 12 months. Like, let's not go down that path.
No. It was that tonight was just, it was a highly disappointing loss.
And people being disappointed for the effort tonight, 100% with that. That was not to the standard that the club has set itself this year. Well, for most of this year, once we got out our own way early on. It's just very, very frustrating. And again, people said that South was spirited and they were tough, and they were, and we shouldn't undersell South. But I genuinely think if Parramatta played at 80% of what we've seen last month, then they play South off the park. Just our red zone inefficiencies were here again. We were very good in the midfield, but very ordinary in the red zone. And just Souths with that desperation, and Jai Gray being a little bit of a spark plug from at fullback, had enough in the tank.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's probably been individually responsible for saving 2 tries.
That's the crazy part. For as much as we're griping about Parramatta's performance tonight, Isaiah Yongi was 2 metres from scoring the winning try. He scores 10 metres through either post there, and Zach Lomax, presumably, that's maybe a little bit too greedy to assume he kicks the goal there, but Zach Lomax kicks the goal and we win by 2. And like you said, Jai Gray, the difference there. I see the Prince of PTC saying, should we be more conservative with the challenge? Could have used it for the potential shoulder charge from Munro and Adokar. I think Munro would have been clear for that particular tackle, Prince. I thought it was a shoulder charge initially, but when I saw the side-on replay, or the goal line replay, I think there was enough, even though it was very chesty, there was enough of a wrapping motion that he would have got away with it. But I do think we should keep the challenge in general, though. That was a very poor challenge on the Matt Doherty lost ball from the kickoff, which was another really bad moment. Score points and then lose the ball next return set.
You don't want to start me on complete the setup.
I knew that would be a trigger phrase for you, mate. And yeah, fair enough. Again, so much of this game, you can just go find a really silly moment from any given player. Parramatta just that ordinary, honestly. Really, really, really ordinary. And yeah, it started off on a bad note when we fought with Los Luca Moretti off the opening kickoff, and he battled through it, but he only got through for 4 carries for 36 metres in the game, so that obviously did impact him, whatever it is. I don't know.
I mean, it literally made him a non-participant in the game.
Yeah, he tried the battle for all, but he clearly wasn't anywhere near his best, and now he played the nervous game of what does the injury report say on Tuesday. I don't know if Jason Ryall said anything in the post-match presser, but yeah, another rough injury hand potentially being dealt to the Parramatta Eels. Ben, yes, we were indeed putrid. I don't know if you want to catch up on the podcast on the rewind function, but we've been having a go at some of the effort areas in the Parramatta Eels and picking on a few individuals, even though it was a very poor team effort in general.
Yeah. But look, it's maybe we're being as tough as we are because our expectations had increased.
The team has set a standard. Exactly. The team has set a standard, and by and large, they have met that standard. There's been some games where they've been wavering around it, and the Cowboys' win last week featured some loose moments, but also some very good football from the Cowboys, who completed it like 95% or 97%. Likewise with South Sydney tonight, who their completion rate ended up, what was it? At 86%, yeah, which I think there's a couple late errors that also pulled that down at the end. This was just an aberration in the context of a long run of form. So, yeah, I understand why people are having an emotional response to it, because this is the sort of game that the Eels have been trying to rid themselves of. And maybe in a way you can look we're griping about a 4-point loss. So maybe the standards have been lifted for both fans and the team, because in the past, SouthYdney will put the dusters for us and we'd be whinging for an entirely different set of things. So I think
this is a team that's belted by injury, this South Sydney team. We cannot escape that. It does.
No.
All that. I'll tell you what it reminds me of, in a way, John, for different reasons. When we got dusted up by that Dolphins team last year up in Darwin, where they had a substandard team and ran riot against us.
That was a whole other level of getting our asses whipped.
It was, but it was where, on paper, the Eels should have got the job done easy. Now, in that one, we got embarrassed, pants pulled down, it was a disgrace. Tonight, we allowed them into the contest.
Yeah,
we shouldn't have allowed them into the contest. And as soon as they were in the contest, they just scrapped, got quite a high completion rate, and by virtue of less errors than us, scraped home on the scoreboard. And it's as simple as that. It came down literally to a couple of really big moments from young Gray at fullback in preventing tries from us. And that's all that was needed. If he had failed on one of them, that probably would have been enough for us to get the win. But when you allow it to come down to an individual player just coming up with a moment or two, and the team is so decimated by injury, you just have to look at it and go, you know what, it was so far off the mark for what it had to be. There isn't an excuse that you can come up with for that performance. But I'm going to 100% agree with you, John. You don't write off next season or say, oh, they're not a top 8 team based on a poor game this season, because you get poor games in any season. And look, we've had more than our fair share this year. But this is a team that's evolving. There will be some different combinations that are there next year. There will be players added to the roster. We're likely to, I mean, you can almost guarantee now that Bailey Simonson is gone. So if both Madison and Hands have a new home next year, then you're looking at
Sean Lane retiring.
Sean Lane retiring. I think we'll be looking at filling like another 4 or 5 places in the team.
And maybe someone internally.
Two to three of those before the season starts.
Yeah, you got to have them for the preseason to integrate them. And look, the Eels have a pretty clear behavioural pattern when it comes to their roster management, that they want to keep a slot open heading into a given season. They want to be active players in the market, be opportunists, and maybe pick up someone of value. So I would look at the roster slots being rounded out to 28 or 29 by the conclusion of the preseason. But yeah, look, there may be a few internal promotions too, because we're going to talk about the New South Wales Cup and the Jersey Flegg, both of whom had productive days. But Craig, any final comments on this game before we wrap up and head towards the NRLW?
No. Are there any questions in chat about the NRL before we go into a very, very brief talk about the NRLW, John? I don't want to spend any time.
Well,
really based on that.
That game eventuated as we feared in our preview, unfortunately. Eels miles off the pace against one of the competition frontrunners. Look, I'm seeing some criticism of our centres, in particular Richard Penasini People want us to shop for a new centre.
You mean Will Penasini?
Did I say Richard Penasini?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I got him on my mind because of a good game in the New South Wales Cup.
Yes,
Look, yeah, I don't know. Well, Will's a funny one because I thought he actually had some really good moments tonight, but then he got stood up by Talis Duncan a couple of times in defence. He was on his Robinson Crusoe in that regard. That entire reg, I think Mitchell Moses had a really bad read on Cody Walker for the go-ahead try, and Kelmer didn't help him even in that regard too. Was probably half a step from his assignment there as well. Josh asks, from what have you seen so far, how do you guys feel about Joash being the 6 next year? I've seen some big criticism of Josh in chat, people feeling like we need to go shopping for a 5/8. I don't know. I'm still open to the idea of Joash at 5/8. I saw some good signs tonight. I saw like a lot of good effort. And again, we saw Joash in a game where his fullback and halfback probably had their worst games of the season.
Yeah. Look, I think a lot of what we need to understand will, in terms of his capacity, will be answered during the pre-season, because this will be him actually training to be 5'8" during the pre-season.
And it's not going to be handed to him in the pre-season.
No.
He's going to be in a legit competition with a couple other guys.
But what people need to understand is he's got a background of almost entirely playing at fullback, a little bit of wing, maybe a little bit in the halves, but not much. He trained the entire pre-season as a fullback. So and then at the start of the season, he again was primarily a fullback for New South Wales Cup. So this pre-season, if it looks like what Jason Riles is tipping his hat about right now, that Joash is his first thought going into the pre-season in terms of 5'8", he's going to get all the preparation that he needs in the pre-season, which means, of course, he'll have a better understanding of the players around him for a start and the lines that Jason Riles wants run in attack. He'll have a more of a sense about, because before he's engaged in some of Parramatta's plays before as a fullback, so he understood the fullback's role in that. Now he's the one that's running a lot of the plays, he and Mitch Moses, and it's a completely different role.
Here's a stat for you. South made him make 31 tackles tonight, and he missed 0. So yeah, that's a huge step up from the Canberra game.
Yeah, defensively he was very, very strong tonight, and I was watching the scramble that he did as well, which was very good. But John, I think the only thing I learned out of tonight was that Joash still has a lot to learn.
Yeah, no,
about 5-day play, and that's a
that would be incredibly arrogant to say anything otherwise, wouldn't it? Like he is clearly a young man learning his role, and again, it doesn't help that Mitchell Moses was well off the boil by his majestic sort of standards that we hold him to, and yeah, Mitch was off tonight. He both. It's weird because he both overplayed his hand and underplayed the game in general. Like he took play down the right far too often. We didn't go left often enough. I mean, Adokar got the ball a handful of times in the red zone in suboptimal conditions, but never in the general play or the sort of midfield options. And
John, to use an old quote, there were a number of times tonight when Mitch Moses zigged when he should have zagged. Yeah. And whether that be that he went right instead of left.
He played the short side twice in the first half and didn't pull the trigger on the pass. Both the times I thought it was on too.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say. It's when I say zigged when he should have zagged, I'm not talking about run one way instead of running the other. I'm talking about things like he chose to run rather than to pass. Chose to take the play right rather than to left. It was a whole lot of things where he just didn't quite take the right option. It was just one of those games, and it just happened to be the perfect storm because it was one of those games for a number of players.
Yeah.
And I think it simply comes down to that. It was one of those games for too many players, which altogether made it a bit of an incompetent performance from the Eels. And we deservedly lost, and it's as simple as that.
Question from Jim before we move on, saying, 40, why do commentators talk about Mitch playing rep footy at every chance? Are we being trolled? Unfortunately, Jim, I think it's just part and parcel of the trade for Mitchell Moses now. He is in that rarefied air of being almost a rep certainty, and I think Eels fans should, maybe it doesn't eventuate because there are talented halves in the mix alongside him, but I think Eels fans should prepare for Mitchell Moses to be on that Ashes tour, as frustrating as it is, and knowing our luck, as bad luck as it could be for our star playmaker. He now has a reputation that has only been enhanced by his absence in Origin this year. Him missing the Origin games actually enhanced his reputation by the subtraction of his skill set against the other halves that took part ahead of him in place of him. So yeah, I think Eels fans need to be reconciled to the fact that there is a very, very good chance that Mitch Moses pulls on the green and gold at the end of the season.
John, can we go to the lower grades before we hit the NRLW, just for the sake of continuity?
You sure you don't want to just give it 30 seconds, go reverse chronological and just be done with it? Because it's literally just reading the score sheet, honestly.
Okay, read the score sheet, John, because I don't have anything. When I say I don't have anything, I honestly don't, because I was at Kellyville when the NRLW was on. It was
unfortunately, it was maybe fortunately clashing against the New South Wales Cup, yeah.
And the thing being, when I went and had a look at the highlights, what I was basically seeing was an Eels defence on the back foot.
Yeah, just backpedaling constantly.
Just passive back foot pedaling. And, I really don't have too much to say based on that because, well, I can't. But if you saw a bit more of it, then I'll just hand it to you to say what needs to be said.
What I will say is Abby Church tried. That's about it. The Eels were very ordinary. Abby tried her heart out and it had a lot of effort plays and some great hustle plays that probably kept the scoreboard from ticking over the 50. But yeah, the Broncos just a gulf in performances tonight. And it was our big concern coming. Yeah, Peter said no highlights, correct. Our highlight was not getting shut out. 38-4 in this one, guys, for anyone that was caring about the overall scoreline. Broncos just crushed the Eels here. A lot of the same issues that have plagued Parramatta, Craig. Passive defense, sloppy handling with the ball in possession, scoring the few opportunities they had to actually attack the goal line. And it's frustrating because they were poised to really build on last year, but they've taken a step or two backwards. And it's going to be to the detriment of their finals aspirations now because if I look at the ladder, and hopefully it is a correct live ladder, they dropped down to 7th on the back of this one, mate. And they're 7th and the gap is starting to widen. Yeah.
Oh, look, I hate to do it, but if I was forced to make a call now, I'd say they won't qualify for finals football. Because
it would have to be a stark turnaround the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, they've dropped games that they shouldn't have dropped in this early part of the season. And in coming up against a real genuine contender in the Broncos, as you said, they showed that there's a gulf there. And as you mentioned earlier, we feared this in the preview that we did. And when Kai put in his preview and he was talking about the consistency of the Broncos and the inconsistency of the Eels, and I thought, well, that pretty much sums it up. You've got a consistent team that's sitting at the top of the table, an inconsistent team that's sitting in the middle of the table, and the result should have actually been easy to predict when all was said and done. And it ran out that way. John, let's move to some better results now because the day started off with the Flegg taking on Cronulla out at Kellyville at 1:00. And I don't think you could ask for a more impressive performance from the Jersey. I thought last week's game against the top of the table Storm was a mighty game to watch. It was a real physical contest. And then today, the Eels just flexed their muscles, their credentials for the title in the Jersey Flegg, and the Sharks had no answer. It was just it was just a complete thrashing.
A couple of second half tries really salvaged. I wouldn't even say a competitive scoreboard for Cronulla, Craig, but not a completely one-sided thrashing. 46-16 full time for the Parramatta Eels. Dom Stratus with a hattie. Could have been a double hattie. Couple opportunities late in the game. Near intercept in the final minute, and another one that he gave away to someone else, I believe. Lorima Rokosuka, perhaps the most rocks or diamonds player we've had in a while, Craig, has a bad error in him, and then does something that makes you absolutely gasp. He had on the balance of things, a very good game down on that right wing with a great little gymnast dive, I suppose. Almost a full front flip into the in goals in the 7th minute. Trace Beattie continued his try-scoring ways with Raf Destratus. So a double for Lynn, and then Dom's brother Raf also scoring this one. Lynn was sharp off the tee, 6 from 8, also added a penalty goal. I texted you in the wake of this game, mate, that the Eels could field a second team of players not available that could also challenge for the premiership in the Jersey Flegg. So tested is their depth in the Flegg. And I kid you not, there is 17, well, technically it's 20 players that I could name in a second team that could take on any team in the competition. That is how deep the Parramatta Eels are right now, which is crazy. And
and to qualify this for people, John's talking about players who aren't currently being selected for whatever reason.
Yeah, whether they're playing cup, whether they're injured, suspended. Yep. Like Bamblet fullback, Faruja and Avery on the wings, Fatala Mariner and Paolo on the centres, Arpa Twider and Lorenzo Talatona in the halves, Tiankin Brown, Jack Hudson and Torres Lakini as your starting front row, Will Lewis, Josiah Funarayuta and Saxon Pryke as your starting back row. On the interchange, Seb Piokala, Tom Summer, Yeti Samuelu, Cooper Fuller, and then 18th man, Jaden Ambechi, and that is not accounting for Araz Nava and Richie Penasini, who are just out there playing cup. Like, that is how much depth the Eels are being tested this year. There are 20 players that are serious frontline consideration selections that aren't playing right now, and they still are smacking around the top 2-seeded teams in the competition the last week and a half. So
yeah. So this win today, the Sharks are in second place after Parramatta beat the top of the table Storm last week. They beat the second place Sharks today. The Sharks were about 40 points better than the Eels in terms of their for and against differential. By virtue of winning by 30 points against the Sharks,
they actually flipped.
It makes a difference of 60 points to the differential. So Parramatta now climbs past the Sharks, but the Panthers were in third place, and they had quite a strong win today as well. So they now move to second. The Eels move to third, and I think the Sharks drop back to fourth. I think that's how it's played out, because I think they're all on the same points.
Yes, So Panthers, Eels, Sharks all on the same points, just 4 against separating them, and Melbourne clear by a win and a half. So they're going to, they're going to finish as minor premiers, although the Eels will have another crack at them in the coming weeks. And Chris is in chat saying that the Flegg and Cup will be playing semi-finals at Jubilee Stadium on Saturday, the 6th of September, providing that they don't finish first. And I mean, the Cup cannot finish first. The Warriors, I believe, sealed the minor premiership this week, even though they lost. I think that the other results have gone in such a way that they can't be chased down. And the Flegg, well, they got a chance, but they need Melbourne to drop another game on top of what the Eels have. The Eels need to beat them head-to-head and also gain another game on them. While the Panthers don't also do the same. Yeah,
and then John, what a game in the New South Wales Cup! It was another 2-pointer. In the end, it was about a seesawing effort. What I will say is that breeze was a major factor.
You can see it on the kick conversions. The ball just blew in from right to left if you're running towards the old Eels HQ. And, yeah, absolute chaos ball, this one. And I got to say, both teams will be griping about the officials who I thought were very ordinary, mate. Missed forward passes, I think, contributed to some of Parramatta's points. One of the most blatant old-school Shepherds I've ever seen. That sparked the Newtown revival in the second half for the Eli Clark try. But in the end, the Parramatta Eels prevailed 30 points to 28. A Jake Tungle try in the 75th minute, followed up by a absolutely mega kick from Arpa Twider on the sideline. Did enough to put the Eels up by 6. Had to hold on to our our horses, though, because the Jets hit back in the final minutes, or final seconds, and had a sideline conversion to take it to a draw. but they pushed it to the left. So the big moment in this game, and this was a game full of big moments, was for mine the effort of Ronnie Volkman, who pulled off probably the tackle of the season. And I don't know if you've got the clip on you, mate. Hang on, I have it on. I'll put it in chat. For those that haven't seen it, where is my link? I clipped this from the game.
We can't put it on the screen, John, in any way.
Maybe I can. Hang on. Let me just go to studio mode quickly. Where is studio mode? Where is studio mode? Oh, no. There it is. Okay. Add a new scene here. Okay.
This will be good if we can add that in, because it's, as I was calling it, I was typing out the try for the Jets. And then next thing I saw Volkman bounce back into the field of play and the referee follow it. And I thought, oh, hang on. And of course, it was very quickly followed by a charge from Woody out to around the 25-metre mark on the second tackle. And then I realised that what had looked like a certain try had been saved. And when people see this in the replay that John's looking to try to get up, he may not be able to get up.
Where is it? You'll see video source, I guess.
It then becomes evident how Volkman just made a miraculous play to prevent the try, and of course that probably would have been, I would imagine, would have sealed it for. I'm just trying to think when it happened. Were they in front at that time, or were they?
No, it was 24 all at the time. So
yeah, that could very well have sealed the game for them, because the Eels went downfield to take the 6-point lead. And then, of course, the Jets got their last-minute try in the corner and made it the edge of the seat finish with a sideline conversion after full time. But of course, Arpa Twiddle, he'd struggled in the windy conditions today, and it wasn't surprising because he was striking the ball well and the kicks were going straight, but when he was kicking into the wind, he couldn't get close to the distance that was needed. Somehow, when the Eels scored their try in the corner to go up 28-24, he nails the conversion from the sideline to make it a 6-point lead. And then the Jets kicker, who has kicked some of the most superb conversions you'd ever see today in the windy conditions, steps up, sends the ball to the left off the boot, and it stays left. So it was an unsuccessful conversion for that last try, leaving the Eels 2 points in front at the end.
Okay,
John,
let's try his media source. Hang on, let's make sure. Turn that off there. There we go. So hopefully this works. Let's get into my browser and maybe it'll interact with. No. It's not a local file. Come on.
The joys of going live and trying to on the spur of the moment throw a clip up on the screen that John wasn't prepared to do before. So if it doesn't work, John, okay.
No crossfield kick. Short ball. Fire Tilly. He's a monster. No, he's lost it. What a tackle. What a tackle, Parramatta.
So I'll put it back on replay for those that missed it there.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but
you're not going to see it because I'm not sharing my screen with you. But
yeah, oh, that's okay. If you were able to show that to everyone else, that's fantastic. But people would have seen there just what a miraculous save it was. John, the takes out of this was that Lorenzo Talatina again was, I thought, outstanding at 5'8". Ron Volkman, he was also well, he may well have been the best on field today, I think. Certainly there were key moments like that one that defined the match. I'm not sure how much you got to see, John. Did you have any other thoughts on best on field?
Best on field, it's tough because it feels like it was a great team effort. What really pleased me, and again speaking to a plan and vision here, is it was a lot of the young guys contributing here. We saw a big moment from Miraz Nanva, obviously Alpatoy.
Oh, that first try from Miraz, I'm not sure that he believed he was going to be able to go the distance, and it was like the further he ran, the more belief he had that he was going to go all the way, which of course he eventually did. But that was an incredible effort. And then you also had I thought on the other side, Richie Penasini had some really
he had a couple of incredible tackles in the high pressure clutch moments at the end. The Jets did score after he made a try saver in the final minute, but by virtue of scoring the corner, helped the Eels get that win. I thought Lorenzo had some nice moments. I thought that Josiah Funayuta looked like an absolute behemoth out there. And I sent you a message saying it's funny because I watch him in the Flegg and I think, he's big, but he doesn't look like that big. And I guess that's also a reflective of how big the boys in the Flegg are these days. I watched him out there today against the men, and he looked like an absolute giant. And he scored a great try, had a couple of really good red zone runs too. We haven't got the actual data on the numbers right now. They'll come out tomorrow at some point. But I thought he was very productive in this game. Ran the ball for great aggression. Did drop the ball for kick return at one point. I don't know if it was squeezed out there. There was a bit of a hands on the ball though. But I thought he was really good. Tyrese, Yeti Samuel on debut. Good to see him get rewarded for his efforts in the Flegg this year, Craig. Yeah. Ronald Volkman, fantastic. Pulled the strings really, really well. I look at that win, and while there were moments for the Jets, obviously, the fact that the Eels found another way to get a path to victory against a very well qualified team, the reigning premiers. Suggestion, I've got it down as Funa Ayuta, but you'll hear on the NSL and the New South Wales Rugby League TV or Bar TV coverage him called half different ways. There's people that use the I as an L, Funaluta. There's, I think today the commentator said Funa Iuta, I think it was. So I'm not 100% on that one. It will be not obviously when he gets to the NRL. I'm hoping that the club puts out some sort of clarification social media post the way we did in the past with Joash clarifying that it's Papa Lee, not Papa Lee. Got to wait there at the moment. Great team effort. They keep finding ways to win, and they're going to have some reinforcements coming in coming weeks as well, because I believe the Eels tentatively hoping that Sean Russell and Gideon Katonga can be back before the season's over, which would
I think he might get in a game before the end of the season. That's possibly what they're looking at, but I guess they look like a really united team, that New South Wales Cup team. They had a big team meeting out on the field for quite a few minutes after full time, just in a big huddle, with the captain talking to them, and before they obviously moved off the field or mingled with the crowd that was there. I thought it was quite telling, that moment like that. The win meant a lot to them. And I think blokes like Arpa Twiddle, they're getting a real consistency of performance, John.
Yeah, and look, one of the areas in which Arpa I've been critical of, and I think the biggest area could have been sort of pointing out to why he might be held back from an NRL debut, was his defense. But he made a couple of really big tackles. His last line defense was really good today. And on top of that, he always chimes in beautifully down both sides of the field. He's comfortable attacking down the left and the right. Pretty handy goal kicker. He's a guy that just finds a way to make a play, doesn't he? Because, again, you look at him and he's not exceedingly quick. He's pretty strong. Like, he knows how to break a tackle, but he's not an explosive stepper. He's just a well-rounded athlete, and he finds a way to find the soft spot in the defense. I don't know. It's just a good footballer's intuition.
Yeah, yep. And, John, the final game that took place earlier today saw our Harvey Norman's women's premiership team make it 5 wins on the trot
Yes.
when they dismantled South Sydney.
Five tries to 2, 26-8 out at Redfern Oval.
Yes.
Alicia Bell back in the team, Craig, which is good to see.
Yes.
She was on the wing, kicked 3 from 5. You got to imagine the 2 she missed were out on the sideline, because knowing Alicia's boot, there's no way she missed anything that wasn't on the sideline there.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the only thing that surprises is not seeing Ella Carlisle's name on the try scoring.
Yes, after all her exploits in the 4-game stretch prior to this one here. But yeah, the Eels lift themselves up to the top 4. 5th win on the season, as you said, 5 in a row. So their record is now 5-2. Kind of crazy that 5-2 only buys you 4th spot in the ladder right now. But the Steelers, Knights, and Sharks.
That is crazy.
Well, the teams ahead of them, the Steelers, Knights, and Sharks, the 2 teams that they narrowly lost to, and the other team that they beat, that's also a front runner. So the Eels have got. You hate to use the term quality loss, but you don't get more of a quality loss or two than when the only teams ahead of you are the 2 teams you've lost to. So yeah. Eels doing really good things in the Harvey Normans. Really good things.
Yeah, we just need them to carry that on to get a clean sweep of lower grade teams in finals football, which would be great to see, considering our NRL team won't be playing finals football, and it's looking grimmer for our NRLW team with regard to finals football. John, that just about cleans up the Instant Reaction podcast. Any final questions from our chat room there?
Look, people talking about Arpa Title's projections, and I see Joel's in chat saying he'd like to see him get some more time in Cup. I agree. There's no need to rush him. Obviously, the concern is whether another club comes knocking to try and offer him a fast track to first grade, but that'll be on the club to sell the vision of him being part of the Eels long term. I think he is still contracted for next year, I believe. So I don't think there's a rush to get him locked up long term. But yeah, looking at this here, we had some discussion about how to pronounce Josiah's name. Clark saying perfect. So when he gets a call from the Raiders, we'll get Ethan Sanders 2.0 and wait another 5 years for a talent. But you do understand that we have Lincoln Fletcher and Lorenzo Talatana signed up long term as well. You can't keep every player, and we are keeping him right now. I don't know. This is the problem with developing youngsters, is that people expect you to keep every one of them, and the Eels obviously got backed into a really shitty situation because of Dylan Brown. But when Ethan left, the vision was that Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses were the long-term halves. Sebastian Lorenzo is locked up. Jim Sarantinos was on our podcast earlier this year, clarified that both Lorenzo and Lincoln Fletcher have been signed alongside pretty much the vast majority of those talented SG ball players. I think Chris Petrus, Josiah Finrayuta, I was trying to think who else was there. Max Popo maybe, but there's a whole cadre of them. So yeah, look, we're going to lose some players.
Petrus today, John. Petrus today.
I talked about Josiah looking like a behemoth in the Cup. Like Petrus is just physically so dominant, and he's still SG ball eligible. So yeah, it's crazy. Very, very good player. Very, very good talent. And again, you look at the players that aren't there right now, and it is kind of ridiculous that the Eels are dominating as much as they can. Sean asked a good question. Do you play Dylan at centre next week? That's a very good question. I would be open to bringing in a young player, but bearing in mind you are taking on the Roosters next week, right?
And the other thing is too, John, that you also want the players who are in, rather than just debuting a player for the sake of it, you want them to genuinely earn their shot and be ready, completely ready for that shot. Now, it may well be best for some of those players to continue in the team that they're in now that has momentum in New South Wales Cup and experience a final series as part of that team. And you've got 2 players there in the New South Wales Cup team who faced disappointment in the SG Ball losing grand final in Lorenzo and Josiah. Then you've got just an absolute host of SG Ball players from that losing grand final team who are in a Flegg team that's flexing their muscle at the right end of the season. And again, I think there's something to be said from letting them play out the season in the team that they're in now and maybe enjoy some success and let next season take care
Craig,
of it.
Ben, if you're going to stop being a Patreon donor because you got timed out for a racist joke, then it's good riddance, mate. Like the adult response would be say, yeah, I messed up. You got a 10-minute timeout, not a ban, a 10-minute timeout, mate. Take it on the chin and move on. Like, just don't say stupid shit in chat. You won't be sat down. And don't get upset that you got sat down for saying some really, really stupid shit. Like, you legitimately upset people in chat, mate. And if that's going to be what it takes to get rid of you or to have you step away, then, like I said, good riddance. But if you want to be a man and say you screwed up and that's it, and you're not going to do it again, then it's okay. But don't be a crybaby about it. Yeah, Sebastian, exactly. That sort of sentiment, mate. Like, if he wants to man up here, I've got no issues with him coming back and just being part of chat again. But don't be a little like. I'm trying not to go code blue here, Craig. But that is the biggest like woe is me bullshit right there. You said something stupid. You copped the consequences. You got a very light slap on the wrist, honestly. So let's move on, mate. Don't be a baby about it.
Yeah. So, John, I think that just about wraps up the reaction to today's action. Disappointment for the NRL.
Yeah, no doubt.
bit more than disappointment for the NRLW, and continued encouraging signs with the lower grades. So yeah, look, I think that's probably a good spot to wrap it up. Thank you to everyone that's been here for the instant reaction. Thank you to our sponsors, Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Narellan and Parramatta, and of course Paraleagues, the home of the Eels. And John, thank you again for being available at what is now approaching 11 p.m.
Thanks to everyone for putting up with us for an hour in this time. And yeah, it's always, look, shitty result today, obviously, in the NRL, but it is always fun to have the post-game for you guys and just have the marketplace of ideas being shopped around, and we get some contrasting opinions. Some people have stronger reactions to something than we have. Some people will also be way more mellow on stuff that we're getting a little bit like, oh my God, why did we do that? And that's what makes it fun. I think it's what helps a lot of people just, debrief and have a bit of catharsis out of a really shitty loss where the Eels should have won. So Matthias asked, do we drop Joe Ash for Hawkins? Gut feeling says no, but we'll probably cover that one more on Team Wish Tuesday, because there'll be a pretty healthy debate around that, I reckon. And maybe
look, it's a fair question. It is a fair question, because I think perhaps that Footy Dean might have brought something different tonight that against his old club. It could have been a fair argument that he might have been a better use tonight against his old club. But Jason Riles has obviously indicated that right now he's preparing for next year as well. So, yeah. But I would have been tempted to go with Dean Hawkins tonight for that simple factor that he was playing against his old club, and he's also been in form anyway. So, and I might have been tempted to play Joe Ash off the bench. So, but I'm a long way from being any sort of coach, let alone an NRL coach.
And on that stunning revelation, I think we'll wrap it up, mate. And I know it's a shit loss to sign off on, but we did get 3 wins in the lower grades, so I think there's enough energy there for a good old-fashioned sign-off from you.
Yeah, go you mighty Eels.